Jayson Tatum lighting up the garden.
He was Superman in the first half.
A Brunson barrage here in the third quarter.
The clutch player of the year. Absolutely brilliant.
Brunson unstoppable. Tatum unguardable. Anunoby throws it down, and Tatum is hurt.
And this could change everything.
Obviously, the loss is huge.
This series is now 3-1 in favor of the New York Knicks.
But we got to get ready for Game 5, so we'll put together a game plan to come out on our home floor to keep the series alive.
I mean, how about those New York Knicks, everybody? Good morning. Welcome into First Take. I'm Molly Qerim. We got a whole lot to unpack today as we start with the Knicks closing in on their first conference finals appearance in 25 years. Jalen Brunson led the way. Mr. Clutch, 39 points, 12 assists. New York overcame a double-digit deficit in the third quarter, taking a 3-point lead into the fourth. The Celtics would go on to lose the game, but the real loss came late in the fourth. As you saw, Jayson Tatum had to be carried off the court after suffering a non-contact lower leg injury. Here's Joe Mazzulla on Tatum.
Obviously, you're always worried about someone's health, so the fact that he had to be carried off, like you said, he's the type of guy that when he gets right up, so he didn't, and we'll know tomorrow exactly what it is, but it's tough to watch a guy like him get carried off like that.
When a player of his caliber goes down and he's rolling in pain like that, you knew something's wrong. So that's why I just gave my thoughts and prayers, because you never want to see something like that ever.
It's tough. It's not really a lot to say.
All right, obviously we all feel for Jayson Tatum. There's been a lot of terrible injuries these playoffs. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
UD, it's been a minute. Great to have you in the building.
UD. Good to
Jay
be
Will,
back.
I saw you yesterday.
I'm working.
Yeah, you're working. Okay. All right, so obviously as we wait for those MRI results on Jayson Tatum, we know it obviously doesn't look good. Jay, do you feel like the Knicks close out Game 5 in Boston tomorrow, like we all predicted it?
Oh, first off, let me say this. I really feel for Jayson Tatum.
Yes.
I mean, you're talking about a guy who has the most 50-point performances in Boston Celtic playoff history. Mm-hmm. And look, I thought the Knicks won the game fair and square. I think they outplayed the Boston Celtics throughout the course of the entire game. But damn, I wish I had that moment to see those last 3 minutes. 42, even though he wasn't playing his best, he had missed multiple shots. He just felt like he was the only Celtic player who was in rhythm. Jaylen Brown with foul trouble. Drew Holiday couldn't knock down shots. Al Horford wasn't shooting the ball. Porzingis wasn't himself. And you knew the moment was going to be defining and the ball was going to be in his hands. I wish we would have had that moment, and I hope a speedy recovery for him. But as we get to Game 5, I have to say, I'm going to take the Celtics because I'm going to take them for this reason here. Knicks are going to win the series. But, man, this is why you got the bag, Jaylen Brown.
Ooh.
This is your $300 million moment. And this time demands that moment for you to lead this team. You got in foul trouble yesterday. He made some fouls that were questionable. Yes. There were times where even listening to Al Horford postgame said, we lost our leader.
Yes.
Not one of our leaders, our leader. I think this is a moment in time for Jaylen Brown, who has not had a great series by any means of his standards, to come out and put his team on his back. Considering the game that the Knicks just played, it's a moment in time for Jaylen Brown to lead this team.
You think they could still win this series?
I think the Knicks win this series, but I will pick the Boston Celtics to win this game at home, considering they have not won a game against the Knicks at home in Boston. It's more of a defining moment. It's a character check for me with them.
Yes, I agree with you 1,000%. I'm a guy that says never underestimate the heart of a champion. This game is going to take heart. You're going in. You gave up 2 at home. You look around that locker room and you tell your guys, we're not focused on winning the series right now. We just need to get one game. I think they have enough to get one, Jay Will. I do. I really do. I believe they have enough. They have the character. They have the coaching. They have championship DNA. And like you said, Jaylen Brown, you got that Lueve bag. You got to bring it.
But also, UD, when I hear you talk, you talk with a lot of passion, right? And the one thing that's always been weird for me to see when I watch the Celtics, especially in these type of games, what do you see when Jalen Brunson makes a play? What do you see when Anthony Edwards
Yes.
makes a play?
Yes.
There's
Yes.
screaming, there's yelling,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
I don't know if I see the same kind of venom or passion that is shared collectively between those guys. It always seems very stoic or just like, yeah, we expect to do that.
Business as usual.
This is a passionate moment in Boston Celtic playoff history, right, for them to show up and defend home court.
Quite a lot about that, and that would be my guy, Kendrick Perkins. Big Perk, you
Perk,
got me.
Big
Good
Perk.
morning. How we feeling, big time? Good to see you.
What's up, Molly? What up,
Hey,
Jay
hey.
Will? You
Why the
did? What's
voice
happening?
seems so low, big fella?
What up?
Why the energy levels
What you
seem
mean?
so
Why
low?
the voice saying?
Okay, all right.
Late nights, early mornings. Don't worry, Perk. I got you. Don't even address it. Perk, here's what I need to know from you.
we
Will the
go.
Knicks close out this series in Game 5? Because these two gentlemen say no. They're expecting a big game from Jaylen Brown in Boston.
I'm not. I'm expecting Big Body Brunson to do what he do best, and that's close out games on the road. He's the best closer in the game right now, especially in the Eastern Conference. Saw what he did to Detroit. Hey, Molly, it's something about those road games and closeout games that brings out the best of him. I just feel like right now, the Celtics and UD, you know this, you got to have a different type of mental toughness right now, right? Your best player just went out. Jaylen Brown is dealing with a knee injury. I'm not making excuses for Boston, but I'm just calling it how it is. Drew Holiday is banged up. Kristaps Porzingis is sick. On and off, he's not healthy, right? And so now it's a mental thing, right? I heard Brian Windhorst last night. He was talking about how quiet it was in the locker room, how everybody was devastated. You down 3-1. Do you really feel like showing up and competing for this Game 5? Do you really feel like getting this win and getting back on the plane and going through this entire series? Or is this locker room shook? No, it's I'm telling you, Jay, you looking, but it's a different type of mental toughness. This team is dealing with a lot right now, man, is what I'm trying to explain to you. And with Big Body Brunson, he smelled blood. And when he smelled blood, it's a problem. And he closes on the road. I think the Knicks close this in 5.
Big Perk, can I just say something to you? You talk about Drew Holiday being banged up. You talk about Porzingis being sick. You talk about Jaylen Brown's knee hurting. These all sound like damn excuses to me. I don't live in no world of excuses. I know Joe Mazzulla is built the same. You're damn right. If I'm a Boston Celtic, I want to get back on the damn plane. You're damn right. I may look shook for a minute, but this is why I talked to UD about this is going to challenge the character of the Boston Celtic team. I know the character of the Miami Heat. It's sitting right across the table from me. I want to see the character of the Boston Celtics. And now you would know about that. Big Perk, you played on teams that had defining character in KG and Paul Pierce. Are you telling me they don't have that character to fight at home in a closeout scenario to beat? Now look, Jaylen Brunson gonna have 3 more shots at closing it out. I'm not saying he can't close it out back at Knicks in Game 6 or back in Boston for Game 7 if it goes that way. But this one, if he gets this one, what does that say about the Boston Celtics? If I'm on the Celtic team, I can't let that happen.
Go ahead, UD.
Hey, listen.
No, go ahead.
No, listen, I'm going to say this, Perk, man. We was up on them boys 3-0, and they came back. And I understand this is a different team. They don't have Jayson Tatum. They got things going on with Porzingis. Jaylen Brown is not 100%. But I got to believe that there's some heart inside that locker room. Our job and our plan against those guys was to push them for 4 quarters for 48 minutes, and eventually we could break them. At one point, that did work for us. That didn't work for us after a while. They grew up. They grew out of that. Joe Mazzulla came in. The toughness changed. The attitude changed. Jaylen Brown took more of that leadership, I'm going to be the tough guy role. So I don't think that they don't want to get on that plane. I think them dudes got pride, man. They won a championship last year, and they also understand what they're up against right now.
This is what I'm explaining to y'all. I'm not saying they don't have pride. I'm not saying they don't have heart. All I'm saying is, I mean, if you don't have that, you don't win a championship. But I know this, when you're going after your first championship, you're starving. You're starving. Trying to repeat, I don't know if you still have that same type of, you may be hungry, but you're not starving. This entire series, I was worried just because, one, of the injuries, and I said this before the series started, that the Knicks had a golden opportunity. I picked this series to go 7. The Knicks had a golden opportunity to pop the Boston Celtics because the injuries, and I was wondering, was they starving again for that second championship? Here's the deal. I just see a Knicks team that are on a mission right now. You know what I mean? I see a Knicks team that's on a mission. I see a Boston team. I don't know. Kristaps Porzingis, he don't know what's going on with him. He's fatigued. He's saying all this. The Knicks ain't trying to hear that. I know Big Body Brunson, he trying to close you out. He ain't trying to waste time. That's
Perk,
what he
let me piggyback on that,
That's
on
what he
that
has
sentiment.
been doing.
Because now, obviously, up 3-1, the Knicks are huge favorites to win the series. And obviously, remember, the Celtics opened as -900 favorite to beat the Knicks. Not only that, the Knicks are the favorite to win the East, but to make it to the NBA Finals. So here's what I want to know. Would it be a disappointment now, UD, if the Knicks don't reach the Finals?
No, not to me. I'm not guaranteeing.
You're nuts.
I'm not guaranteeing that they don't go to the finals. I'm not. They got to still go through Indiana, whoever wins that series. I'm not just finna say just because they beat Boston. And the Knicks didn't come here and go to training camp and put that team together just to beat Boston in the second round. They put that team together to win a championship. They still have to play either Indiana or Cleveland. And last year, if I'm not mistaken, Indiana beat them. Yes, Cleveland had. New York had some injuries. But Indiana beat them. And what we're going to do is we're going to give Indiana their flowers. But they're playing good basketball. And they're not a team that we're just going to say the Knicks just going to run over and go to the finals if they beat Boston. I don't agree with that.
I would say this. Typically, I would agree with you. But the question is it a disappointment if the Knicks do not reach the finals? And here, let me tell you why it is. Because Indiana beat them last year in the Eastern Conference semifinals in Game 7 when Tyrese Halliburton had 26 points and they shot 68% from the field. So regardless of injuries, they got punked in that Game 7. And defense is something that Tibbs has always prided himself on. What did we see them do last night, Big Perk? We saw a team last night and their strategy was, hey, we're going to switch every pick and roll. We're going to be patient and we're going to bait them into taking threes. Nobody else on Boston's team got into a rhythm outside of Jayson Tatum in that entire game. Derek White maybe in the first quarter, but after that, everybody else felt dead silent. And they stayed with the game plan constantly. So, yeah, I think it would be a disappointment if they got by Boston and then the team that beat them last year, that beat up on them in Game 7, that they didn't step up to the plate and get that win to get to the NBA Finals.
Big Perk?
I'm with Jay Will on this one, UD. Hell yes, a disappointment. Matter of fact, the Knicks, after they close this series out, they going to the NBA Finals.
Oh, hell no.
Now, I think Indiana's going to push them to 7 games, but I'm looking at a Knicks team that, didn't they go 7 games last year?
Yes, they did.
They went 7 games last year, right? Wasn't the Knicks banged up?
Yeah.
OG Anunoby dealing with a hamstring. Jalen Brunson playing on 1 foot. Josh Hart, when he tore his abdominal. And all of a sudden, now you bring in Karl Anthony Towns. You bring in Mikal Bridges. You just knocked off the defending champs. And you mean to tell me you make it to the NBA? Look, they going to the NBA Finals, man. Once they close out the Boston Celtics, the New York Knicks are headed to the NBA championship. And I'm going to take it a step further. I wouldn't be surprised if they win it all, to be honest with you. I mean,
Wait. Perk, hold on. I got to pump the brakes on that. No, here's why I want to pump the brakes, just to you specifically, because you were so high on OKC.
But I never had OKC winning it all. I have OKC coming out of the Western Conference. And guess what? That's not going to be easy for OKC. Not the way Minnesota, Ant-Man and Julius Randle is playing right now. That's not going to – and one, OKC got to get past Denver, which I believe they will. All I'm saying is the Knicks have opened up everyone's eyes. I already believed in them, but they didn't took it another step. And what I'm saying is, who on this panel right now, including you, Molly, if the Knicks happen to match up with OKC or match up with the Minnesota Timberwolves in the NBA Finals, you mean to tell me y'all saying they couldn't win that series?
I mean, I'm not counting out the Knicks in the final 5 minutes of any game.
I am not taking nothing away from what the New York Knicks have accomplished. But what I will not do is just say they're going to win the finals. You got to give credit where credit's due. The game got to be played, and the game is played in between the lines, not between us at the table. The game is played in between the lines. So
Tell me this. So how do they match up against the Pacers?
Well, the Pacers like to run. They get up and down. It's a fast-paced game, so they're going to run like they always do. The Pacers not going to change how they play. They're going to get up and down. They're going to play fast-paced. They're going to get the ball out. Even on makes, they're going to run the ball. So it's going to be tough. Now, what I will say is the Knicks made the moves. They went and got Mikal Bridges. They got wing defenders, so they can switch things.
Yeah.
They can take you out of offense. They can flatten you out. Once again, like they did last night, making sure only one guy scores the ball, take the other 4 guys out. So the moves that they made, the defensive moves that they made, will help combat that. But I still say the game is played in between the lines.
Jalen Brunson's injured. Donovan Mitchell, not Jalen Brunson. I'm sorry. Jayson Tatum's injured. Donovan Mitchell's injured. It feels like the path has opened up for them.
Still got to play the game, Molly.
I mean, look, I'm not going to count Indiana either.
Yes.
Just because of how they were there last year, how Tyrese Halliburton wasn't his full self either last year. So look, we talk about this all the time, UD and KP. Everybody has injuries. Yes. How do you manage those injuries when it matters the most? And health plays into this whole thing. So look, I think that could be a series that can go 6 or 7. I would probably have the New York Knicks favored slightly, but Indiana could easily win that series. I think that's the beauty about where we are right now. Everybody in this season had Boston and Cleveland making it to the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah.
And now look at the situation.
Yes.
Basketball's in good hands.
Absolutely. Perk, here's what I want to know as we're talking about these injuries. What impact will Tatum's injury have on the Celtics' big picture moving forward? Because people are already saying they couldn't keep this roster intact. They have new ownership now. And then obviously now the news of last night.
I mean, Molly, let me say this. First of all, praying that Tatum have a speedy recovery or whatever it is, when the reports come out that he's dealing with, know the young fella go get back on the floor as quick as he possibly can. Hate it for him. He definitely was balling last night before that injury, okay? But I don't know where the Boston Celtics go from here because I believe at this point they damn near spending about, in total salary and contracts, they starting 5 with Kristaps Porzingis in it. It's about $800 to $900 million. So, Molly, I don't know where they go from here. To be honest with you, I know that there's nowhere in hell a new ownership group is going to keep this team together. I'm not saying they're going to break up Jaylen Brown and Jayson Tatum, but you got to look at Kristaps Porzingis. You got to look and see what's going on with Drew Holiday, right? You can't keep you can't keep all of these guys. And that's, again, but this is why it's so important. And I get it. You can't control health and what happens between the lines for as injuries. But when you have an opportunity to win a championship, man, you got to maximize that. You shouldn't have any regrets. And I thought the Celtics eased into this series, took this for granted, blew 2 games at home that they probably should have won, and they're going to regret this later on in their career. I'm the only one? But, I think about the NBA championships I didn't win when I went to the NBA Finals more than I actually think about the one that I won.
Oh, for sure. For sure. I still lose sleep over the ones that I didn't win and the seasons that I didn't have an opportunity to go to the finals. But what I will say is the future for a team who we said would probably be going to the finals, and I remember meeting with Joe Mazzulla after they won last year, and the first thing he did was point up and say, we got room for another one in those Raptors. So they had already set that tone. So for a team who we thought would probably be in the finals for the next 2 or 3 years, just drastically, and we talked about this earlier, that picture changes.
Yeah.
Because when you talk about an injury, and we don't know what it is, but when you talk about an injury, what we've seen as basketball players or what it could possibly be, that's a 6 to 8 to 9 month thing. And as basketball players, you, Perk, know this, and Jay, Will, you know this as well. It's a difference between when you can come back and then when you get to the level where you were at before you got hurt. That's a whole nother level. So before they get that Jayson Tatum back that we saw last night that had 29 points in the third quarter without shooting any free throws, we're talking about looking at another year at least before he gets back to that level. That changes everything when you talk about championship expectations and having championship coaches.
It's crazy to think about a team that literally in seconds goes from a championship contender to then transitioning to a rebuild.
Yeah.
But essentially, that's what we're talking about here, right? Yeah. We're talking about having a fire sale. And I talk about the fire sale with some of the older players. So Al Horford, 38 years old. Drew Holiday, 34 years old. Porzingis is about to turn 30, KP, but it feels like he's the 38, 39-year-old 40 with all the injuries and all the stuff he's been battling, right? So Look, you can make a case that the only person that you try to keep intact with this roster is a guy like Derek White for his versatility that he can bring to the table. And if you want to keep together Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown, I'm fine with that. But it almost feels like you need to let go of these rotational players, give Jayson Tatum the time to do rehab. Next year is what next year is, to a degree, and try to rebuild with players that can all defend and all shoot that fit into the Joe Mazzulla style of play. But that's the reality of where this team is because of hitting the second apron and just where they are with some of their older players in the roster.
No, look, it's not going to be go find players that fit the Joe Mazzulla system. Like, Joe Mazzulla's system is going to have to change if the Celtics break up this roster because that's the luxury of having this group. Like, it's hard to go find another Derek White, another Drew Holiday, another Kristaps Porzingis, and put those guys all on the same team. We're talking about when they're healthy, their starting five have probably the only starting five in the NBA that got two-way players, like elite two-way players. Not guys that could just put the ball in the basket, but guys that defend at a high level. It's hard, and that's why I go back to the regret part of it. You don't want to have those regrets. Man, we had that squad. Bob Myers said something the other day that he said this was the best team that Jayson Tatum probably is going to be a part of in the next, 5-6 years, right? This team, in my opinion, right, when you run it back like this, man, you got to take advantage of it. I'm not saying you can control what happened to Tatum, but you go back and you look at what happened to them in Game 1 and Game 2, they definitely going to be thinking about this. But the Knicks closing this out tomorrow night.
But it's crazy to think last night might have been the last time we saw that iteration of the Celtics. And obviously wishing Tatum a speedy recovery.